from Crystal's Quail and Cocktails. I've been posting some videos on YouTube and some cocktail recipes on Instagram. I came outside to prepare to move my quail chicks that are in the house outside. I prefer brooding in the winter. I start early because if you wait until spring, right around Easter, it's hard to get your hands on fertile eggs or chicks because that's when everybody starts thinking about it. So I start thinking about it after the new year. So I placed my first egg order, fertile egg order, and I hatched out, I can't remember how many. I sold 81 chicks and I have 55 left. A couple, of course, died because that is common. So the birds have been in the house. Now it's time for them to come out. They are now getting out of the brooder bin. Like when I take the lid off, they want to flush up, and so we're chasing quail chicks around the house. So it's time for them to come outside. So I have this lovely cheap shelf that I got secondhand. Had it for a couple years. It's nice and dusty and dirty, but it works perfectly fine for brooding the quail outside. I make my brooders myself, so I have my own method of doing it. This allows the chicks to stay cozy and warm even outside on Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day, everyone. I'm gonna have to walk in and out of frame to press pause. I just realized that you can pause a video, so that's new for me. Social media and this kind of thing is not my area of expertise, but I'm going to learn along the way. So I know you can see my quail cages here. I need to feed and water these guys, but I'll do it after I get the brooders set up because I want to get the heat lamps going so it can start warming up for when I bring the quail chicks out. So this tote is the only tote that I have that looks like this. It's a little taller than the others, so it goes on the bottom shelf because that's the only place that it'll fit. But I've hosed off. Fun to play with the hose when it's like 30 some degrees outside, you know, February. But I hosed everything off, dried the insides out. Now I'm preparing to set up. So what I have are brooder bins that I've made. Oh, here's a fun thing that I've never seen anywhere else, is I use the chick nipple water in my brooder bins. I just drilled some holes, screwed the bracket on, works great, water stays clean, no problems, and there's no problems with their water freezing in the winter because you have heat lamps on the brooders. So your supplies are a tote, right? I'm not going to show you how to make the brooder today. I'm just showing you how to set them up. But I have my tote bin. It has a lid. It's outside. I'll show it to you later. But basically I cut a rectangle out of the lid and then drilled holes and secured it, the hardware cloth, with the zip ties. And so that allows me to place my heat lamps directly on top of the bin. So I have my brooder bin with the lid that keeps the birds inside, and I place the heat lamp directly on top of the hardware cloth. Since it's metal, it won't melt. The heat lamp keeps the water from freezing. So there's nothing wrong and no problems with brooding in the winter. This allows the birds to start getting used to the light cycle because they're in the house. So our lights are on much later than when the sun goes down. And I do 2 big hatches a season. Well, 2 big hatches at the beginning. I'm up in my quail game this season, so I'm probably going to be doing even more. But so I've done my one. I sold my excess quail. My goal is to get 60 quail from my hatches that I keep. I incubate, I order to 150 eggs from my shire. And they always send you a little bit of a surplus. I incubate them, and whatever is over 60, I sell. That pays for my fertile eggs plus some. So basically, I'm getting fertile eggs for free. So I have my tote, have the lid with the hardware cloth, which you see. I have my chick nipple drinker bracket secured on. So there's two types, well, there's multiple types of bedding choices. When I start the chicks in the house, I use fine wood chips. Pine, don't use cedar. Cedar is poisonous to birds. So if you don't know, now you know. But so do wood chips in the house. So when the chicks, they're so small, you have to basically have an open feeder for them when they first hatch because they're so tiny. Once the chicks start like scratching at it and flicking it out, then that's about time to put the lid on with the mason jar, right? So it's one of those circular ones with the holes in it. But when you switch over to that, the chicks, there's a video that I posted, can get inside the feeder, like when the feed gets low. So you can usually, if you're around, right, they'll start chirping because they're like, hey, get me out of here, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. So that's only happened once so far with this batch of birds, but they're bigger now, so I'm not concerned. So wood chips in the house, and the reason being is, okay, so I like this, hopefully you can see it, this pelletized horse bedding. This creates a drier environment. However, when it gets wet from when the birds poop, it breaks down kind of into a dust and it looks like their feed. So if they have feed on, you know, that they kicked out of their open feeder, they're eating pine and their food. So that obviously is not good. I don't put them on the pine bedding, the compressed bedding, until I move them out here. So what I do is I put just enough bedding in, pine bedding, to make a very thin single layer. Then I sprinkle in some fine wood chips to fill in the gaps. Then I put the water and the feeder in. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Hopefully this video is working out. If not, I'll re-record because I have 2 more brooders to set up. Okay, so here we go. So this bin I don't particularly care for because it has this deep channel around the edge. So I make sure I fill that in, hopefully you can hear me, with the pine pellets. So then the bottom is flat. Okay, maybe a little more pellets than I want, but because of the way this brooder is built, it's good. All right, so got my pine pellets. Now I'm just going to sprinkle in some shavings, like a real thin layer. Alright, so this is going to create a drier environment for the birds, and you won't have to change the bedding as often. Under the water is always going to be the dirtiest part of the brooder. Did you know that birds can't pass anything from their crop if they don't drink water? So they're gonna basically shit a lot around where the water is. So in between full cleaning, I will just scoop that area out and then just kind of spread it back out, because this pine bedding, the pellets, are gonna kind of become more like sawdusty. So they're kind of gonna expand. So I'm able to take some out and just kind of smooth the area out. In these brooders, when the birds are first hatching, I have a lot of birds in there because they're small. But now that I'm moving them outside, and since I do 60, I try to do about 20 birds. I do about 20 birds per bin. I think I have 55 birds, so the numbers will be a little bit different, but it's totally fine. Okay, so I'm gonna get the, you know what, let me just put the bin on the shelf. Alright, that one goes on the bottom. I'm going to pop out of the aviary to grab the additional items that I need to put in a brooder. So enjoy the birds while I'm out there for a minute. Okie dokie. Alright, so I use, oh, the mountain quail are flying around. I have mountain quail. They're behind you though, you can't see them. Here's my chick nipple water. I'm going to turn the lid. So actually, I'm going to turn it this way. So nipple, but it opens this direction. I actually put the bin in backwards for the way I like it. Alright, so basically that's going to make it easy for me to access their water. I just open it from there. This is a little low, so I'm going to move it up. Click. Alright, so that's in there. Need to put water in it, of course. These are the type of feeders that I use when I move them outside. Sometimes I'll use them inside too, like for chickens. This is organic quail starter. I have a local feed lady who delivers because I order at least 1,000 pounds at a time. Okay, feeder's filled. Stick this in there. Need to fill the water up. Of course, the water's outside because I forgot it. Be right back. So, I don't know if you figured it out yet, but this is my aviary where I keep my quail cages. I have 2 in here right now, this one, and then one I don't think you can see. And then behind it is an open section that has my mountain quail and one silky living happily together in that space. Water. So, food, water. Now we need heat. So the other thing about these brooder bins, so I will have 3 bins full of chicks, but outside of the time that I have chicks, if my cages are full and I need to isolate a bird, usually it's for an injury, because I never had quail get sick, knock on wood, I'll put them in these brooders, so they work great. And that's why I have cut this hole in the top, because the full-size quail are bigger, right? So I can set the water right on top, and then the nipple, they'll peck it from the bottom. So that's to raise it up higher, because your birds should have their, like a nipple, basically, like it should be like here, so that they can get it. Or if it's the other type, not the chick nipple, the ones that they peck, it should be kind of like closer to eye level because they basically have to go like this to swallow. Alright, so lid's on. Let's put a heat lamp on it. So I turned all my heat lamps on so I could make sure all the bulbs are working. I think one isn't. It could be the bulb or it could be the part the bulb plugs into. I don't know the answer to that yet, but I have two heat lamps in the house, so I'll just bring one out and then I'll figure it out and either replace the bulb or order a new lamp. Forgot something else. Be right back again. Okay, so I put these thermometers underneath the heat lamp so I can see what the heat is there. I put the lamp on one end, that way the birds can go in and out of the heat. That way, if during the day when it's warm and sunny, if it's too hot directly under the lamp, then they will move further away from it. Another thing that I've left outside the aviary, because you know there's not a whole lot of room in here, is a blanket. So let me put this in, I'll grab the blanket, and we'll keep going on. I've thrown a couple of them in the compost pile by accident. I forget that they're in there and I just dump it in the wheelbarrow, and then so whenever we use compost we'll probably come across a couple. Okay, so these are old swaddle blankets from when my son was a baby. I use them on the brooder bins to cover the top to try to trap the heat in. So that is my brooder bin setup. I am going to just keep filming while I continue on and get the other two set up. Then I'll pause for when I go get the quail, since I learned how to pause. All right, I'll be in and out. I might not chit chat much at this point. Oh, so these are my preferred totes. Target. And I can use less pine pellets in this one since the bottom is flat. A thin layer. Ooh, I smell a heat lamp. Okay. The heat lamps smell a little bit when you first turn them on because there's dust on them because birds are dusty. So you smell it burning off. Gotta go get another water. Be right back. Alright, don't tell anybody I'm drinking a Bud Light. I don't know why this is what I drink when I do bird stuff. But I do bring cocktails out. But a guy that I process meat chickens with, that's his beer of choice. So I don't know, sometimes I just want a Bud Light when I'm doing bird chores. But on my Instagram, lots of pictures of pretty cocktails. I think I just heard a sound. I wonder if this stopped. I'm gonna walk behind and see. Oh no, it's still filming. No idea what the sound was. Maybe it was the remote turning off. Nope, it's still on. Just gonna set that there, because if I press that, it's gonna stop the whole thing and not pause it. Alright, water thing, thermometer, and this also will let me know if a bulb burns out right when it's in there. Right now I know the bulbs work, but if one birder bin has a drastically different temperature, then I will know from this. Alright, lid. I've gotten better at making these. Don't mind all my duct tape. I now use proper tools. I used to use a razor blade, but now I use a Dremel. Works way better. Okay, that is on. This, I thought this was off, but I guess it's not. I guess it's on. Oops, pop this up there. So, I'm not sure if you noticed, because I don't think I mentioned it. Oh no, I did mention it. I use Reptile heat lamps. And I started using them because I started my bird journey when my son was 2. And I did not, you know, a lot of those, like the heat lamps that you buy in like Tractor Supply for birds, the brooder lamps, they like clamp on. They have this big bulb, and this keeps the whole bin way warmer, and it also, like, I feel like it's a little safer than that other thing, because even though they put a cage on it, little kids can put their hands in there. Not what I wanted to do. Just switching some plugs around. Okay, don't have another blanket out here. They're in the house. On to number 3. sure if you can see in this bin, but I have these sticker thermometers. They're like for fish tanks, and I put them on the side so I could get an idea of what the temperature is. I highly doubt they work at this point. I used them when I first started. I started in February 2019 with 9 chickens, and now I keep 9 as my minimum, 15 is my max on the chickens, but I'll end up with hundreds of quail by the time like I'm done hatching out and filling my cages. So you might be wondering why, I don't know, you might not be. Why do I keep quail? Why did I start keeping quail? So I like animals. My husband does not. So the deal was I could have outdoor animals once my cats that were grandfathered in passed away. I'm gonna end up just spilling these on the ground. So that's how I started with the 9 chickens. Like, it doesn't work out, we have a big family dinner. No big deal. Then I had a cousin in town, and we were talking about quail because we were at my aunt has a farm. She's the only person in the family with a farm. She leases her land for crops, but she boards horses. That's what she does. She doesn't have any animals besides the horses on her farm. However, part of the deal when she bought the house was she had to continue to host this annual fox hunt on the farm. It's a chase. I don't think they're not legally allowed to hunt the fox anymore, like, because they would kill, the hounds would brutally kill it. But her daughter would cater the event, and one of the things that she would serve, lots of little hors d'oeuvres, is a delicious cup of some cheesy grits with some bacon and an over easy quail egg on top. So being at this event, it's a long day, family hangs out. I'm talking to my cousin who's in from out of town, who I haven't seen in who knows how, since we were like kids. I'm 40 now, don't tell anyone. So we were talking about it, so that's how I kind of started getting interested, and I was like, well, I already have all the stuff to brood the birds, and I already have these things. I could try it out. So February 2019, I started with chickens. December 2019, I got my first fertile eggs in. So, or I probably got it in November because they hatched in December, somewhere around there. So I hatched out, not exactly sure how many, because you can't keep 50-50 numbers, 50% male, 50% female, because the males will fight each other, and then also overbreeding for your girls. So after we had a quail dinner and reduced our numbers, I think I ended up with around like 16 to 17 quail that I kept, and I kept them in a small chicken tractor. Quickly realized like they don't go in a coop and sleep, and after a couple were killed by a predator, I'm assuming a raccoon, like reaching in and grabbing and trying to pull the bird through the fencing. I put hardware cloth around it, solved that problem. So that's what I started with. Then of course COVID came a couple months later, and my son was 3 at that point, and a couple neighbors' kids, also the same age. I would let the kids take the quail and they'd throw it up and it would flutter down. We do it a couple times and then switch the quail out to give it a break. But everybody seemed to enjoy the quail. So then the next year, So now we're in 2021. I decided to expand. That's when I got the aviary. That's when I got the quail cage. One quail cage. So there's a produce stand not far from here, and we were shopping for plants, but I took along with me 2 dozen quail eggs and a pair of quail egg scissors, and talked to the owner, and they said yeah, they were interested in selling my quail eggs, so I started selling to them. Then in the summer, I contacted a pick your own farm around here. They were interested in selling my eggs, but they wanted to do it the legal way, which is you have to wash and sanitize and refrigerate the eggs. So I had to get an egg license, super easy, did that. And then I have I call her my farmer friend now, but I've been buying raw milk from her since my son was 1. After a lengthy conversation with this pediatrician, and after I had tried it, and then also asked the farmer a bazillion questions about, how she handles it, and she started selling any extra eggs that I wasn't selling at that time. So that was just kind of fun. My son would go with me on Fridays. We'd go around to these places and deliver quail eggs, and it's just an enjoyable thing. I loved it. And it supplemented the cost of having the chickens, because my husband was complaining about how much the chickens cost. So the initial cost for having chickens, because you have to buy the coop and fencing and like all that stuff. But after that, you're only buying feed and you're replacing oyster shell and grit. And you learn that you don't feed your chickens too many treats, or too many other foods that are not their formulated foods specifically for them, because they can be malnourished, which I learned from a very knowledgeable poultry vet, who came to my house and schooled me. So then you spend less money, because it's fun to feed the chickens treats, but if you throw regular feed down, they're going to run for that too. So that's how I started with quail. And then the next season, so that was then 2021, so then 2022, I decided to expand. I got a second quail cage. I thought I was going to have to find a new customer, but the people that I sold to, my customers, their demand for quail eggs increased the next year. And then that may have been around the time when I switched to organic feed too. And once I made that switch, I split the difference of the cost on the feed with my customers. I took a 25-cent hit, and then I upped theirs 25 cents instead of just upping it 50. But that was the price difference, and then now they're selling even more eggs. So I've decided last night, I've been thinking about it for a little while, to expand again. So right now I'm working with 2 quail cages, but I've just bought 3 more last night. They're not going to go up here in the aviary. One will, but I have another place that I think I can convert to house the birds. So that's exciting. So anyway, that's how I got my long story about how I got into quail. But these lovely beauties are my working girls. They pay for themselves and for every other bird I keep. They pay for the mountain quail's feed. They pay for the chicken's feed. I keep a couple rounds of meat chickens a year. I do 3 rounds of 15, and then I do 5 turkeys at Thanksgiving. They pay for them. And then I end up with a small surplus after that. But they are paying for themselves, everybody else's feed, and I'm getting basically free meat in my freezer and free eggs. So that doesn't sound like a bad deal to me. I'm hoping with this extra expansion that I'll make more profits, but we'll see. It's an experiment. You just never know what, you know, you just trying it out, going along, and if it fails, I'm perfectly capable of processing the birds, and then I sell off my stuff. And if these cages end up on sale secondhand, they get scooped up like that. So I'm not worried about any big losses or anything like that, but we are gonna see what happens. So it's gonna be exciting. I already have another quail egg customer. I don't, without the additional cages, I would not be able to fill the order that he's requesting. He was requesting a small order, but now he just upped his order today. So I sell quail eggs between April 1st and Halloween, because that's when my customers are open. The Pick Your Own Farm, the farmer's market, and then my farmer friend who goes to the farmer's markets and sells my eggs. So after Halloween, I will sell off adult birds. The birds will be a couple months old because they, you know, so I'm selling them in November, and they've hatched out not before, you know, February or whatever. So they're 9 months old. Quail live about 2 years, so they have a whole nother season, you know, that they can work for someone else. So I will do that, and then whoever's left gets processed, and then I keep a couple cages worth of birds. This year I have way more that I wintered than I wanted to, but I had a really good Celadon quail hatch. So I have 3 cages right now with Celadons, but that's going to get reduced by half once they become sexually active, when there's more light, and then I'll be able to tell who's boys and who's girls. You cannot vent sex a quail if they're not sexually active and it be reliable. If they're molting, it's not reliable. So at that point, when they start crowing and things like that, then I'll be able to dwindling down, and they'll be fully grown, so they'll be able to be processed right away. In my other videos I've mentioned it, but if you haven't noticed, the quail have bits in their noses, and that's to keep them from killing each other. This top cage here gets a little more light exposure than the other cages. There's a neighbor with like a glowing kind of back porch light, and it's not enough for them to lay eggs, but it's enough for a couple birds, or maybe only one, haven't found the culprit yet, to be aggressive. So I have 3 birds in recovery in a cage behind you that you can't see, because someone injured them. Luckily not too badly, because I have the bits in their noses. So yeah, that's my quail journey. I love it. I didn't realize how happy this would make me. I love being outside. It makes keeping birds, forces you to get outside no matter the weather. Hot, cold, it's in the 30s right now. Humid, rainy, snowy, you have to come out because they're living things and they need food and water. And if you don't feel good, you still have to come out and take care of them. Because in my situation, I am the only one who takes care of them and does the processing. I do it. I've met some bird friends, so we do it together, but otherwise it's a me thing. So the quail are not like chickens, though. They're not friendly. Like there's a big difference in personality. That's just how they roll. But I appreciate them for what they do, providing food to my community, and providing money to me to pay for all my other birds. So, yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is I mentioned that I order 1,000 pounds of feed at a time. Where do I store all that feed? So my feed lady brought me 55-gallon drums, and so I have 3 in a small shed behind the aviary, and that I put the full bags in there to keep rodents out, and then when I need a bag, I just carry a bag in here and dump it in one of these bins. Then I have 2 in the shed, and that is for the chicken feed, and then when I have meat chickens and when I have turkeys, that's where that feed goes. So no problems with rodents with the 55-gallon drums. No problems with rodents getting into these plastic feed bins. But once I got the second quail cage, I do have a rodent problem because the quail were able to flick their feed. So these are my winter. Well, I've totally gone off on a tangent. This was just supposed to be about brooding, but apparently I want to talk about birds because I have bird brain, as I say. The second cage. So the birds, if you raise their feet up, so normally, their feeder would clip onto this level here, but I bent the little metal. These are the trough feeders. This is just my winter setup, but I bent the little hook a little bit so I can move it up one. And if the birds have to reach a little bit, they can't flick it and they don't waste it. But on the other cage, which is one of the original cages, one of their older ones, the metal is really hard and I can't bend it to move it up. So the birds were able to flick the feed out, which invited rodents. So I've really been trapping a lot of mice. I also have 2 barn cats now. So they're feral cats that would have been euthanized, but there's an adoption program, so they bring you the cats, there's no fee, they bring you all the supplies. So I haven't let them out yet. We're looking like it's pretty cold for them, so once we might get some snow here this upcoming weekend. So as soon as I feel like the temperatures are up a little bit, I'm gonna let them out, and hopefully they will do their job and keep my rodent population down. I don't do any rodent deterrence, because I don't want to chase mice away from the space and then they end up in my house or in my neighbor's house. So I just trap, and I do not humanely release, okay? Because I don't want them back. They're causing me a problem. They're eating my feed. They're making a mess in here. I've moved so many things out of here because I just didn't want to have to deal with always cleaning up. So what's in here, I guess, is typically in here, but it's not in here because I'm cleaning. I call it my crash cart, but it's a big plastic cart, and inside of that has my medical supplies for taking care of the birds. Let's save that topic for another time. I did post a video about gluing a quail head, though, if you want to see that. It's on my channel. But I would have things on top of that. I had like a trash can with a trash bag in it, and just like some things like that. And those fucking mice, sorry if that, hopefully I can say that on YouTube, were like eating the bag and making a nest in there and like all this crap. So I've moved as many things out as I can so that way I can just be trapping, because once I have more birds in here, then the situation's going to change. So, and then hopefully, like I said, the barn cats will be doing their job. So, all right, and I said I wasn't going to talk that much while I did this. What was I thinking? You want to talk about birds? I love talking about birds. So I used to live in Seattle, and I did not realize how much the weather affects my mood. And now, like, we've had some gray days. I feel kind of like not very motivated. But so now I'm in Maryland, which is where I'm from, but I lived out in Washington State for a while. But I figured out that the weather affects my mood. But having to come out, take care of the animals, it really helps. And if I'm feeling crappy, it really helps. So, and I didn't know I'd enjoy this much when I got started. I also used to keep a very pristine house, but not anymore. My aviary and my coop will be clean, but my house is not as clean. I mean, it's not dirty, but I have a 8-year-old. He's 8 now, so yeah, it can get cluttered, but this is what I prefer. I have a couple quail laying eggs, so I get just a couple, like one here and there. So here's a cute little quail egg. I feed them to my chickens because I just get like a couple randoms, but I'll leave it here for tomorrow. Okay, so alright, so something's wrong with one of these heat bulbs. One bulb is not going to be enough for this brooder. So what I need to do is go in my house, pack up the quail to bring them out and put them in here. I need to get the 2 more blankets that are in my house, and I need to bring a heat lamp from inside out until I figure this one out. So I'm going to pause the video while I do that and move a couple things out of the way, and then I will restart when I come back. So thanks for chatting with me and watching me set up the brooders. I do want to show you a quail check, so that's why I want to resume the video. So I will be back shortly. Okay, hello, back again. So I went ahead and put the heat lamp on, put the water and feed in the middle one brooder. I brought up the 2 extra blankets and the birds. I checked before I turned this on the temperature in the top brooder and in the bottom, and there is a big difference. The bottom brooder is currently almost 83 degrees. That's because it has that blanket on it. The top one's 57. So you definitely, if you're going to brood outside, need to keep the heat from completely escaping. I have a different method for how I brood in the house to keep the dust down. Birds are dusty, and that's not good. You know, it gets on your stuff. You don't want to breathe it in. So that video I posted, I'm sure my videos are shit. I'm just doing one take, basically just trying to start somewhere. But I think my information is good, because I have been doing this for a while. So hopefully at least that is helpful. So what I just turned that heat lamp on. I'm going to go ahead and put blankets. I'm actually going to move that bottom blanket to the top, and the reason is that's the darkest swaddle blanket. You see it, like, this one's completely white. This brooder gets the most light because it's the highest up. So I'm going to put the lightest one on the bottom and the darkest blanket on the top. Yeah. So I have 3 designated bins for outside. They get gross because they just stay out here and it's dusty and whatever. So I hose them out. I wipe them with a disinfectant wipe, you know, in between, but otherwise they're like the gross bins. My 2 brooders for the house, I set up, I think it's like a 5-foot table, and I put 1 brooder on top and 1 below. Now I noticed in the one below that I have more losses, and I think that's because it's darker. So I found it's like a camping light, a little battery operated, looks like a light bulb, and I put like a command hook under the table, and I put that little light on and took care of that problem. So let me do the blankets, then I'll start putting quail chicks in the bins, and I'll show you one of the quail chicks. So you know, I move quail chicks out at a week and a half to 2 weeks. Up to the week and a half mark is when you're going to have the most losses, if you're going to have one. But you want them to be mostly feathered. You want them to have their wing feathers, because that's kind of like they go around their body, keep them warm. Their chest and their heads are not fully feathered yet. They still have that down feathering. I did, when I put some of the birds in the bin, basically I just combined them into one, so I didn't have to move that many birds, you know, even more times. So this bin's dirty. It's my house bin, needs to be cleaned. I'm not sure what I was saying. I lost track. But I think I was talking about the feathering when I was moving the birds. So I buy feather sexable quail chicks. What does that mean? That means, so there's 3 types. There's a lot of different types of colors, but there's sex link, which are hard to find. The boys hatch out one color and the girls hatch out another color. I have done sex link once. I haven't been able to get my hands on them again. And what I did with the males, they went from the incubator into basically a carbon dioxide chamber. And I froze them and sold them as like reptile food, like just part of a reptile diet. But since then I haven't been able to get that. Now I get feather sexable. So at 3 to 4 weeks, when they have more chest feathers, the boys' feathers will be solid and the girls will be like speckled. When you get those feather sexable birds, occasionally there's a bird here and there that ends up not being feather sexable, but it's no real big deal. The reason I can't sex these birds is because they're not feather sexable birds. So then you have to wait until they start crowing, fighting, and getting it on. Okay, so let me do the blankets, then I'll start moving birds. I'm sure they're cold. It's in the 30s out here, so yeah, let's get going. Hi, are you guys watching me? You're on camera too. Oh, didn't really fold how I wanted it to fold. Okay. Put that up there. Some of these holes are from the mice, some are from, I know I burnt one with a heat lamp once, so, by accident of course. Alright babies, your turn to shine. Hi! I call them my stinky babies, because they are stinky right now. Too many of them in the bin. So I had the 55 in 2 bins, and I cleaned the bin the other day, a couple days ago, and I was like, once you guys get stinky, need a change, clean, you're moving out. Alright, so some of these birds might fly out while I'm trying to grab them. So we'll see what happens. Oh, this is one of my better looking brooder bins. The ones that, as I got better making them as I went along. Okay. So if you watched any of my other videos, so I basically just slid the top far so that the top of the water is exposed. So it's like about that much of an opening. I'm gonna pop birds in, and then hopefully none will fly out. They're more secure. They don't tend to fly out as much in here in the aviary, and I think the reason is they feel more secure because there's a shelf above. So they're low on the food chain, right? So their immediate instinct is to flush. But when they have something over covering them, they feel safer. So on my small chicken tractor, when I use it for surplus quail, I know you guys are cold. I have a clear tarp for the winter, and I have a green one for when it's warmer. But I will take a shower curtain, like a cheap shower curtain off Amazon that has like a forest DC, and I'll cut it in half and put it under the cover so it makes them feel like they're hiding in the brush, right? Because quail are ground dwelling birds and they want to hide. Alright guys. Alright, where's the thermometer? Is it covered in poo? You guys ready? So any birds that I'm concerned about, maybe size or what have you, I'll put them in the metal bin because that's the easiest bin to see. There's one that was on one of the videos I did that got stuck in, couldn't hatch out of the egg. And that little one is in here somewhere, still doing well. I think that was 6 birds. Whoop! Bird down. Just to show you, I did get the bird. So that's the good thing about also having the birds in the aviary, is that if a bird gets out, they're out in here. Unfortunately, if this guy got out, probably wouldn't make it, like if I couldn't find him, because it is so cold. So that's 10. And I buy a feather sexable mix. Don't mind the Amazon delivery guy who I hear at the neighbor's house. So I get a mix of birds. Hold on. I know, I'm just looking. So I'm just doing like 10 at a time. Oh, you're tiny, tiny. Alright, so this bird is very small compared to the others. So the first thing I'm going to check is the bird's vent. See if they have pasty butt. So what that is they, nope, the poop like hardens, so they can't pass any more poop, and so toxins build up and they die. But this bird looks fine. may just be a small bird, but because of that, I'm going to put it in the middle bin. And I already lost count of how many I have on the bottom. So give me a second, I'm going to turn the light on and do a recount. Oops, sorry guys. Hit the pan. Alright, so I only got 2 in the bottom. I think the light's too bright on the video, so that's why it's not on. Whoop, whoop. Oh, oh. Okay, so that means I should have 25 left. So I'll do 5 and then we'll see how many's left. Alright, so let me show you this bird if you can see it. Not sure if you can. So this quail, you can see, so see its wings are fully feathered, its back is. It has quite a few feathers here, still missing some, and head feathers. It might be too dark for you to see, but this bird's chest looks rusty. So males don't have to necessarily have a rusty chest. It could be a solid, but a solid color. So I would predict this one's gonna end up being a male. Sorry if you couldn't see it. I know it's dark. Alright, I might have messed up a little bit on my counting, but it should be pretty even. Alright. Let me close these up for the birds. So by having 20 in each bin, I should only have to tend to the birds once a day. So when I come out for these guys, do food and water, that's when I'll do food and water for the other guys. Not sure how often I have to clean the bins out. I don't remember how often I do it. I usually do quail cages twice a week. Now it's cold. I don't do it that often. I have to do it as often because it's like the humidity in the summer makes the poop mold, and it's just more, it's gross. But in the winter, when there's poopsicles, it's not so bad. Plus, since the birds aren't laying eggs, they're not taking as big of shits. So that's another fun fact. So now I'm going to top these guys up with food and water. Their water gets dirty because they flick their feed into the water. I do rinse their waters out, but today is not the day for that. So I'm going to end the video. I'm going to go out, grab a bag of quail feed from my stash, because this is starter, but my layer is just about empty in here. Fill it up, water and feed these guys, check on the mountain quail, and then my chores are done. I've spent a lot longer talking to you than I thought I would. Sorry if I'm not making eye contact to the camera. I don't know how to do this. I'm just trying. With some encouragement from some friends. I remember when I started, you know, you just Google things, you know, and it's how I learned how to process a chicken. Now I'm much better at what I do. So, and I've learned a lot of lessons, and I think I have information to share, because if you decide to keep chickens, there's information you don't know, or a quail, it's just not common knowledge. And if you don't know other people who are doing it, and you don't know what to look for, you don't know what you don't know. And that poultry vet coming out, so the reason she came out was that I had about a year into chicken keeping, I had a chicken get sick and die. I chatted with my chicken guy, who I buy most of my birds from, back and forth. He just thought it's bad luck for her. A month after that, another chicken got sick. Contacted the poultry vet. She was not going to be able to get out like in time. I thought the bird passed before, the day before she got here. But there was nothing she could have done. So I didn't know that we luckily in my area live close, about an hour from an animal health lab. For a very small fee, I don't remember how much, it was under $20, but you can take a dead animal and they will do an necropsy and tell you why the animal died. And that's how I found out that my flock had Merrick's disease. I didn't know about Merrick's disease. My chicken guy didn't vaccinate at that time for Merrick's disease. So, yeah. And once that gets in your flock, it stays in your flock. And they're varying, I don't know if it's varying strains, but you know, it can cause a variety of symptoms. The first symptom that I didn't notice was that the wood chips in the coop had like a very bright green stain to them. But that was very traumatizing, having that bird get sick, knowing I needed to put the bird down, and having to figure out how to do it. And then with the second bird, trying to find someone who could tell me what was wrong, because I was worried I was doing something wrong, right? Maybe there was something I was doing that I was unaware of, and then I was causing my animals to get sick. So I think I had 9. I lost 3 of the 9 to Merrick's, and it was devastating. You know, we name our egg-laying chickens. We don't name the quail. We don't name the meat chickens. We don't name the turkeys. But the egg layers are, you know, more like pets. You know, so, but I learned a lot, and I'm glad I did, because she doesn't do that anymore. And from what she had said, there were only like 2 people in the country who did what she did, her on this coast and someone on the west coast. And I know she goes and speaks at seminars or whatever. I don't think she does that anymore either, I'm not sure. But I appreciate all the information that she taught me. I appreciate her responding to my text messages during COVID. she wouldn't come out because she had an infant, which I totally understand. But I appreciate her passing knowledge along, because I try to pass that along too. Because if you don't know, you don't know. So, and one tip, please wear a mask when you clean your coop. So histoplasmosis, it forms where lots of poop sits. I don't worry about it in this situation because the birds, like, I clean this out twice a week, but and I don't worry about it in my coop too much. I clean that out once a week. I don't use the deep litter method. But if you use the deep litter method, or the space like my chicken run where the birds poop on the dirt, there could be histoplasmosis in there. So you don't want to disturb that earth. There was, in my research, there was something that I came across. There was like a tree next to a building where all these birds would roost, and then they would poop on the ground. Well, in that building, the windows were open, and they did work outside, and it disturbed the ground, and hundreds of people in that building got histoplasmosis. So it's airborne. It gets in the dust, the wind can blow it, and you can breathe it in. So definitely wear a mask. Probably a good idea to wear a respirator. I don't wear a respirator because it doesn't sit long in my coop. But I do notice a difference in the amount of like mucus that I have because the birds are dusty. So it's like irritating your airway. So if anybody comes over and they, like, I will offer them a mask, you know, their choice, or, you know, whatever. But for cleaning, definitely recommend it. And histoplasmosis, the first symptoms are usually kind of like cold symptoms. I don't know how long it takes for that to happen. I don't know a lot of information about it, but it's a cold symptom, but then it can go dormant and come back as something more serious in the future. So yeah, so that's for your backyard bird keeping. I'm hoping that farmers have more knowledge, but for, you know, the backyard keepers, it's not common knowledge. We're just winging it, right? So yeah, so that is my suggestion. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say. I don't really think so. So I'm going to wrap it up here with my birds. Thank you for listening. We'll see if I actually air this video because I am very uncomfortable with this. But I like talking about birds. So, yeah. All right. Happy Valentine's Day. My son had a doctor's appointment, so he went to my grandmom's, so his great grandmom's. So I'm glad they got to spend some time together on Valentine's Day. And my husband worked late, so I'm going to enjoy a rack of lamb when I get to the house. It is my favorite meat, and my son and my husband don't appreciate it. So if I'm eating dinner by myself, on occasion, that's what I'll eat. And I get it from my farmer friends. It is so much better than lamb from the grocery store. So good. And I love an unfrenched rack of lamb, so where they don't cut the little bit of meat and fat off the bone. And so I'll take it and I'll turn it into like the lollipop kind of thing. So I'll cut in between the bones, and then I'll just salt and pepper, broil it 5 minutes on each side depending on the thickness. I like my meat, I would say in between medium rare and rare, more to the rare side. If I so I love vegetables too, but I really love lamb, and I really enjoy it when I eat it. So I don't drink wine too much anymore. I feel like I don't feel as good the next day. But if I'm eating lamb tonight, I got a bottle of red in there with my name on it. So after I take care of these guys and I clean myself up, that's what I'll be doing. So I hope your Valentine's Day is wonderful. I got to spend it with my birds and with you. And you know what? If it's not wonderful, make it wonderful. Make tomorrow wonderful, right? Because it is what we make of it. And yeah, so, and look, I'm out here in 30 some degrees. It might be 20 some degrees now, hanging out. And I love it. So, all right. Happy, what day of the week is it? Oh, Wednesday. And happy Valentine's Day. Hope I kept your attention. Sorry if I was boring. I'll rewatch the video and see if it's worth posting. Okay, till next time.